Hi friends, thank you for tuning in to the Concussion Coach podcast. I'm Bethany Lewis, the Concussion Coach. I'm a neurological occupational therapist and certified life coach, and I specialize in guiding people through their concussion recovery journey. I am passionate about helping people understand their injury, speed up their recovery, and reclaim control over their life post-concussion. The purpose of this podcast is to help increase awareness of concussions and the impact they can have on a person's life, and to bring hope to people who have suffered a concussion and those who love them. I firmly believe that sharing stories and knowledge about concussions will bring important light and understanding to this misunderstood and often invisible injury. The information in this podcast is meant to bring that awareness and hope and is not meant as medical advice. The opinions shared are those of the interviewees and my own. If you are suffering with lingering concussion symptoms, I have created a concussion coaching program specifically for you. I will be your mentor to guide you through your recovery journey, offering help with understanding and managing your symptoms, setting achievable goals, and learning how to manage your own thoughts and nervous system in order to get control over your life again. If this program sounds like something that would help you or someone you love, sign up for a free consultation. In the consultation, you'll get valuable information and resources and gain hope for your future. Sign up for your free consultation at the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Hi friends, welcome back to the Concussion Coach podcast. Today I get to interview a friend from way back in the day. We both worked at Cognitive FX together many moons ago, and I am excited for you to get to hear his experience and how he helps people. He has lived experience with concussion as well as experience treating and helping people recover from concussions and related symptoms. So we're in for a treat with this conversation. My guest is Porter Charles, a licensed independent clinical social worker, an EMDR and workplace therapist, and a TBI survivor who brings both professional expertise and lived experience to his work. He's the founder and CEO of Smooth Stone Counseling, where he helps individuals navigate the challenges of when life and work feel out of balance and supports clients in shifting out of fear-based thinking into more grounded, sustainable ways of living. He offers virtual one-on-one sessions as well as workplace workshops and is passionate about creating accessible educational content to support emotional wellness and recovery. He is currently serving as a board member on the Boston College School of Social Work alumni, and his clients range from Harvard and MIT staff and grad students, business executives, other therapists, parents, and even high schoolers. He loves his work. You can find him and his work online at Talk to Porter or the Smooth Stone Counseling website, which we will put in the show notes. And some interesting facts: Porter lives in the iconic Boston, Massachusetts, has a pet snake named Morrow, and he likes playing video games as an elder millennial and cooking. His favorite thing to do is spending time eating and traveling with his wonderful wife. So welcome, Porter. I'm glad that we get to have this conversation today.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, and so cool to return after so many years of just not seeing each other but working with each other and everything. So really awesome to be with you again.
Yes, yes. And I will say too that we reconnected a little bit more recently on when you did a presentation for the online support group that I'm a part of with the nonprofit Brain Sparks. So that just a plug for that and shout out to Porter for that as well. It was really helpful. He talked about anxiety with young adults and teens. It was great. So glad to be reconnecting again and having this
Yeah.
conversation. Why don't we just jump right in and have you share a little bit about your injury and what the symptoms were that were following it. How long ago was it?
Sure. Yeah, crazy. About 13 years ago is when it happened for me. Traumatic brain injury, like emphasis on the T, I guess, for emotional trauma. So it's taken a lot of, I'll just say as a preface and for maybe perhaps to even normalize this, that the traumatic part of it is maybe often, I think, overlooked, or that was my experience. And so, yeah, it's taken me years to be able to talk about this, honestly. So it's really a privilege to be able to talk about it. It's a big deal for me, I guess, in my own personal growth. But yeah, 13 years ago, a whitewater accident hit my head pretty hard. Got out of the water, felt kind of fine. And then within a couple hours, just was not feeling fine. Had my first panic attack, and I'll kind of get into more details later there. So in preparation, actually, I used to tell people that the symptoms that I was experiencing were like you go onto WebMD and it's like I have all of them except for I don't think that I had any kind of hallucinations or anything like that. And I went back on actually after all of these years to WebMD and I was like, oh, it's updated a little bit, which is great to see. I think that concussions and just education has gotten more over the years, and which is really great because it literally for me, my story is like I went to the ER 3 or 4 times and they're like, eventually they caught on. And they're like, oh no, you're fine. So that was a wild thing for me. And just people just didn't know what to say or how to treat concussions, TBIs, or even just the different varieties of them as well. So for me, I'll go down the list a little bit. Panic attacks, absolutely. Had a lot of those. Eventually was diagnosed with panic disorder, which was pretty wild, and we'll get into that a little bit later. For me, just almost immediately, shortness of breath, dizziness, lightheadedness. Over the years of being concussed, I had headaches constantly. It was like I looked forward to being sick sometimes because it was a time where I could just be in bed and I already had a headache and stuff, but then I could take some extra medications and stuff to feel better. I tried not to take too many medications while I was concussed and stuff just because I didn't really want to do that for my own personal reasons. I had confusion, memory issues I would say within the first 2 weeks or so, it was difficult to even walk. I had some forms of common aphasia, so I wasn't able to have a good word retrieval and just things like that, which was scary for me to go to the freezer and say, I want, and then the word was broccoli that I would say, but I was actually chicken or whatever
Mm.
it was. And that kind of made me freak out a little bit. I was like, what is happening? Eventually, and I think this is kind of tied in with kind of the higher levels of anxiety, but it was hard for me to run, to work out, to laugh, to sing, to drive, to all of these things that I used to enjoy and do. I was very, I would say, extroverted in high school, and this happened in college. And so there was like, not only am I in the stage of life where I am finding out who I am and exploring and being by myself, not living at home. But I also had to, with that trauma, with the brain injury, find a new version of myself. How does my brain work? I went from straight A's to getting not straight A's and looking at accommodations that my college or university was offering, which there's complexity to that as well, just because particularly back then, mental health was even more stigmatized. So, anyways, on a little bit of a tangent, I'll kind of keep reading through some of the symptoms that I experienced, mostly an effort to, for those who are listening, those who are seeing, I want you to know that you're not alone in feeling these things. And I've felt these things for years without too many ups and downs. Some of them were lower level things, but so let's see, I had weird sounds in my neck. It kind of sounded like sand flowing a little bit. It's kind of weird. Never really got answers on that, but that went away after a couple
Was
of
that
years.
with movement or something? I'm
It was
curious.
honestly when I re was re most relaxed. For some reason, yeah, I don't, it felt good when I was hearing it and feeling it. So it's your medical people out there, if anyone wants to put in the comments, what the heck was that? I don't know. Hopefully a good thing or not a bad thing. Yeah, theme of my life a little bit is confusing doctors. That's for me. Super, super low energy. Let's see. Sensitivity to lights and sounds. Oh my gosh. Could not go into a grocery store. Costco was like try to get to Costco and then go into Costco. Yeah, that was really hard. Like climbing Mount Everest, hard type of thing. Mental fog, difficulty sleeping, body weakness. Let's see, just going from extrovertedness to more complex introvertedness is what I would say. And then just tack on a bunch of other just complexities of mental health and mental illness. Suicidal ideation was definitely a big thing for me, and depression, something that I hadn't realized that maybe I had before a little bit, and but I just didn't know depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and things like that until this experience. And I
Mm.
really had to become face to face with some very real things. And I think at a young age, in my opinion. So yeah, a long-worded answer a little bit there, but that's the main symptoms and like how it all began.
Yeah, you did have the full list there. That is that's a lot and probably surprising. How much did you know about concussions prior to this and what was surprising to you about this whole experience?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So beforehand, I knew nothing about concussions. I knew nothing really about mental illness and stuff. I just like it was crazy. The moment that I noticed that something was wrong, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna work this off or whatever. No, definitely something not right. Went to the ER, like I said, a couple times, and they're like, "Oh, you're fine," or oh, I don't know, everything's fine. They didn't even say anxiety, just along those same lines and on a slightly different note, just like looking back on that time when I was concussed, and I guess spoiler alert, because I've been able to recover, was, I guess, one, that I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky to be able to be where I am right now, feeling pretty fully recovered and functioning as an adult who runs his own business, who lives out in Boston, is married, and like functioning pretty well in life and helping other people function well in life. Something that surprised me though about the whole experience was that like I had met with adversity earlier in life, but having a concussion and having a TBI had not even imagined life could ever be that hard. I was surprised by how impossible it felt sometimes. I, there were moments where I felt like there was really no hope. And I think that's something that's rare for people to experience in life, where truly you feel like that. I might mention more about that later, but it was really from that point where there was a little bit of a turnaround of this is the reason why I choose to live, I want to live, and finding a reason to live and finding hope there. And I guess another thing that kind of surprised me about the whole experience was just that like how invisible I felt. I might look semi-normal depending on the person's taste. Or if I was having a panic attack, you couldn't tell by just looking at me sometimes or whatever. Or I'll watch some videos of me back in that time and I could kind of tell what I was going through a little bit, but I was already a little bit weird anyways. If I had weird tics or something, I would do that, or if I would just not pay attention or something. It was because I was dealing with stuff that was really hard. And so to that point, it was just surprising how there wasn't a lot of conversation around it. There wasn't a lot of knowledge about it. And it was really a surprise and comforting to find the help that I did. And then here years later to have there be a podcast on concussion. I don't, that's amazing to have support groups. I did look up support groups. One, I was in poverty, I couldn't afford anything. And so that cut out some of them, but there was never actually a support group for someone with a TBI in the whole state, from what I remember. I didn't like,
At least not one that you were able to find, right? Like
yeah,
if they existed, they weren't accessible, really.
they weren't accessible. Yeah, I talked to doctors, I looked online, I did other things, and there was a lot of, I don't know, some of them were like, I remember in my journey of trying to find something to help in some community was like I found people who had TBIs, but were much more severe than mine, where there was just like higher levels of disability, not to discount my level of disability during that time, but having also worked at a place that treats concussions, I could also see that, okay, yeah, after a couple of weeks, like I was able to walk, I was able to still go to school, I could speak, I didn't forget a language, those
Mm.
kind of things. So, yeah, I think that
Yeah.
answers that question.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you brought up so many things that I'm excited to dive into a little bit more as we continue on with this conversation. I just really quick though, did you end up like when you went to the ERs, they told you were fine, did they do like MRIs and said, okay, you don't have a brain bleed and therefore you're fine or
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I was just like, this happened. Did the, I don't even know if it was an MRI or a CAT scan, but something.
Mhm.
And yeah, they were like, well, there's no brain bleed or anything. 24 hours, like, then you're fine. And then I had
Yeah.
to do a lot of work. I guess that's another thing too, just to add in there. I wish I had a caseworker. I wish I had some social worker who was in the capacity of caseworker to help me because I did almost all of these things myself. And
Yeah.
I had to reach out and find a person who did concussion type stuff, which actually ended horribly a little bit. They gave me some medication and other things, and I got a really bad stomach ulcer and other things. It was just a terrible experience. I'm not doing it with that person anymore, so I tried to find another provider, and a lot of it was picking up the sticks on the road and making my own fort kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And you were, like you said, you were in college, you were on your own. Did you, I just imagine that would just be so disorienting. You don't, I don't know, did you have good support at home or people, if you're I don't know, as a college student, a lot of times you're doing your own thing. So I don't know how much support were you
Yeah.
able to have through that? And yeah, trying to figure all of these things out by yourself. If the doctors are saying, no, you're fine. And then you're like, but I'm clearly not fine. You have to find it all yourself. It's just,
Yeah.
I think things are changing. But I'm so sorry it's your experience. And I do
I
think that
know.
it's not completely unheard of these days for people to still have a similar kind of experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, what was that like? Were you on your own pretty much to figure all of it out?
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah. My family was as helpful as they could be. I had some cousins and like my grandparents were nearby. I remember staying at one of their houses for a week or something like that, and then just cooking some meals and stuff, which was like really nice. I remember just laying on the floor, and then I remember crawling to the bathroom because I couldn't walk, and that was difficult. And then my family was in a different state, and back then just communication and things like that was just harder, and they were dealing with their own stuff and their own complexities of life. And I I'm pretty self-reliant as just as a person. I like to take care of myself a bit, but yeah, I will say that like the experience of me going through this was also an experience that my family also was a part of, and my friends and such. And yeah, I did lose friends as well over this and stuff, just because I changed and my capacity changed and stuff. And some people were friends for different reasons and stuff. But what I'm trying to say is that it was a big learning experience that even some people who were helping me are still learning about. And it's something that's just, this might go into a little bit of a conversation with caregivers, but yeah, I was like the first person in my family to have like diagnosable anxiety. Like maybe
Mhm.
there are undiagnosed things there or whatever, but I brought that into my family. What's a panic attack? Porter's having one. What is it? Like, how do we deal with it? Do we deal with it the same way that we deal with other things? The answer is probably no. I was like the guinea pig in that. And so there was trial and error. And one of my symptoms that I forgot to mention was anger and frustration. And I think validly, but it is frustrating when a person keeps re-triggering you or does something that is a simple example. You have the lights off and you're trying to focus on something or whatever, and they turn the lights on and bring in something really loud or whatever, and you're like, okay, I can't do what I was doing before, or I was on the verge of trying to, and then getting mad that's a normal thing. Whereas, yeah, it was difficult because I had to try to set boundaries without knowing how to establish boundaries. I had to educate everyone around me as much as I could, and I didn't really have much words for it. Plus, it was like real trauma I was dealing with. So every time I'd have to explain myself to a teacher or a friend, a family member, or whatever, it was just reliving the trauma again too. And it was difficult. It was really difficult. I was also in the day it happened. I think I was engaged at the time. This is years ago. Obviously, it didn't work out, but yeah, like I was in the middle of a relationship. That part of the TBI was like things changed. I needed different attention, like that. It, it, it was complex, a lot of trauma around that. So I had some support, but a lot of it was I had to learn what it was and try to educate other people, which is a really terrible part about all of this. And I'm glad that people like you, for example, can spread good information. And that goes for a lot of other, I guess you could say, just under under visualized groups where it really ideally it shouldn't be the responsibility of the person suffering to be able to educate the masses or the majority or whatever. It really would be better for the person who's not struggling to not have to educate in every single level. So,
Yeah. And it is so hard because, like you were saying, you don't even understand what's going on for yourself. You're figuring it out and then trying to explain it to other people. It's just, yeah, so challenging. So thank you for sharing all of this.
yeah.
And how long was it before you found treatment that did help? It sounds like I would love to hear what treatments or therapies were helpful for you. It sounds like you tried some that were less than helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that journey go?
Man, yeah, I feel like I tried everything. And to be honest, timeline, I'm not totally sure. In my mind, I say that I was like fully concussed for around 2 to 3 years. I don't know the exact timeline. I wasn't trying to, it was like my mind was like, I'm stuck this way. I'm gonna try everything possible to get better, everything. And yeah, I guess some things that worked, some things that didn't. What was really helpful eventually was finding a therapist, someone who specialized in anxiety and panic disorder. I didn't know I had panic disorder until a year or two like after that. I'm just like, oh, I saw my diagnosis and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And I looked it up and stuff. But I learned a lot about, which was a good ground foundation to my current work as a therapist. I learned just very intimately how fear works, how anxiety works, and I had to learn how to challenge that. So one thing that my therapist encouraged, which really was like a form of exposure therapy, was I got out and I tried to exercise. I moved my body. I did a lot of different things. And I've later learned that creating blood flow and stuff is really helpful for that. And boy, was that hard. There were times where I literally felt like if I go outside to do this, I'm going to die. Not to be too morbid or whatever, but it really was a constant and daily conversation around the deepest, darkest fears that I had. And often it was that I didn't want to die. And so I had to become more comfortable with the possibility of that happening for me to step into the darkness or the unknown to do it. That being said, I think it was, yeah, a couple years after the TBI, still was having symptoms. Things were, I was able to cope and mask a lot better, but still was having a lot of difficulty. I found cognitive FX, and the first barrier was finances. And I know that there's other places out there that do similar things, perhaps. I'm not fully researched on what's going on now in today's age, but yeah, I started, anyways, I started a crowdfunding thing online. So it's back in the day, like when GoFundMe just first started, I think, or just around that time where it was like there wasn't too many resources, but we did it. I had some help with people close to me, that was really nice because I couldn't have done it without the people who were in my inner circle. Just looking at screens was incredibly taxing, even years after. And so they did that. They filmed me and I got some donations, which was great. It was really hard to talk about it too, because I really liked being treated like a quote unquote normal person or normal
Mhm.
functioning person. It would trigger my anxiety and the whole what's wrong type of thing. If someone was like, are you okay? Like, don't ever say that to someone who has a lot of anxiety. Just if you, especially if you're a nurse or someone or a doctor, are you okay? It's like, yeah, now I'm not okay. Thanks. But I did raise some money. Thankfully, oh, I was saying it was really hard to be out and open about it because I also didn't want to be treated differently.
Mhm.
There are some jobs where I've included that I had a TBI, but there's some jobs where I didn't because like I didn't want to be discriminated against. Like I had already seen that in my life for in a variety of different circumstances, and I just wanted to be treated as if this isn't didn't exist, and I could just deal with it and kind of hide it in a way. And So that was hard for me to be able to make it more public, share my story a little bit. And then I would say that the largest amounts of funding did come from kind of closer family, which I was really, really grateful for. Um, and that's always hard when money's involved and stuff. And at the time, it was just a lot mentally to kind of go through. But long story short, got to cognitive FX. And some things that I felt like worked the most for me were probably having information, just knowing, or at least knowing that the providers had information as well. Like doing the fMRI scan was really comforting for me because the way that I had it explained to me was like, we can tell where the blood's not going where it needs to go in the brain. And so we want to kind of work those areas of the brain so that we can kind of get the blood into there and things can be better because the symptoms are happening because your brain's overworking. You could probably tell me, is that accurate science still?
That sounds,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay,
I
cool.
believe so.
All right. This was again 13 years ago. So I know that science takes a while, but I know there's different discoveries, and honestly, I haven't looked up on the latest. But that was helpful just to know that, like, okay, in the span of a week, or the span of 2 weeks or whatever, like I'm going to be able to get some specialized treatment in the right areas. I'm hopeful about this. And I also was able to finally, I think for the first time, trust some providers,
Mm.
trust someone who knew what they were doing, and put my whole heart into it. Which is, I learned, and another thing that I say even to my clients today, I learned that willpower is so like teeny tiny. Like it is strong, powerful, but like it is very limited. And if you keep using that willpower, oh my gosh, like you got to find another way. There's another energy source out there, right? Like,
Yes.
it's almost actually relatable to like a breath mint, where like you put it in, that's your willpower, and you feel it, it's powerful, but after like 30 seconds, 60 seconds, you're like, where's the mint? I want some more mints. Like, um, so yeah, I put my all into it. I did what they said. I love the like occupational therapy part of things. Yeah. That's where Bethany was at that time,
Yes.
and it was cool. And I loved just kind of the reassurance that I would hear from the occupational therapists of like, we want the gears turning, at least trying to turn. You don't have to get the answers correctly. We just want to try and attempt. And let me tell you, like that is actually something I also use today with my clients too. It's like, okay, if we're having trouble experiencing a feeling, labeling a feeling, or working towards reprogramming or restructuring our neural pathways so that certain anxiety triggers don't come up or whatever, or we can deal with them differently. It's like just the thinking, just the working. We don't have to get to a solution. Like that's
Mm.
part of the process. And like, and you'll notice, or something like I learned little gems through this experience, which I'm able to see that now. I think before it was really hard. But what else? There wasn't a heavy emphasis on like mental health stuff. I would have preferred that. But I also like the kind of moving around. Again, I knew that even though all the things I was doing were scary, that I had people around me who knew what they were doing and what was happening. And I'm sure they've seen someone have a panic attack before. This is a
Mm.
like a concussion. These are concussion specialists. These are people who've done it. Like I could trust them, and it was
Mm.
awesome. So
That's
I'll say that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I love that's one of the things that I loved to share with people. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. I'd kind of
Mm.
like forgotten about that. I haven't said this on this podcast, I don't think, but
Uh,
um, so thank you for bringing it up. Just this idea that, in some of the multisensory activities that we do in therapy,
mhm,
where we're having somebody, I'll have somebody like stand on half of a ball, a Bosu ball, and hold
mhm,
up spot it cards, and they're jumping their eyes back and forth and moving the cards around while they're trying to like match the picture between the two
mhm,
cards. And also we have music playing, and also we have a conversation going, and it's like it can be very frustrating for them. They're like, just I want to find the match that you told me to find the match. And I'm like, no, the point isn't to find the match. The point is that we are activating all of your brain at the same time right now. Like,
mhm,
so it's
mhm.
like helpful to pull back and see the bigger picture of like getting the answer right isn't the point. The point is what we are doing for your entire brain. And that just really I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of analogies or like things that we can learn from that as an important life lesson. But really like
Yeah.
remembering what the point is and getting activation to the brain in general is a good thing. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
it was a helpful experience, it sounds like. Did it make a difference for you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. After doing that, I remember there are certain memories that I just vividly remember. And there are other ones that I just don't. They're still kind of blacked out. But like I remember after the treatment, I got in the car and I was able to start laughing. And that was huge for me because laughing overstimulated everything in my body
Mhm.
before. I could laugh, and I turned on the music and started driving, and I was like, what? Like my life is back. And I was like, okay, like, and sure, it was just like symptoms were pretty much gone. I did learn that it's like, okay, there's an emotional and psychological aspect to this that I needed to then take years really to try to find the right therapy and what worked for me to heal from the T part of the BI.
Hmm.
And but like brain wise and symptom wise, like it went away and it was awesome. And I think that a part of it was also that I, since the day that I left, like I've tried to be very like brain healthy and brain conscious and do brain games and move my body and test things out. Yeah, like I try to work for that grinding the gears thing and less on I'm gonna accomplish this, but I'm gonna try, I'm gonna attempt. And gosh, I learned to ski double blacks. All right. Like,
What?
yeah.
That's amazing.
And I learned to ski during my concussion, which sounds absolutely crazy, and it kind of was. I don't know if I'd recommend it. And it's a long story how I could even kind of afford that, but like I was able to do it and it was so crazy, but it was all part of me trying so hard to like force it to kind of click back as if it could.
Hmm.
Um, but like after that, ooh, it was cool. It was just like taking off glasses that were disorienting you, and it was just like it was so cool. And which is why I actually went back to CFX to work and to kind of give back a little bit because people don't have these experiences. Like they do. They do. I know concussions are prevalent and they vary in levels and such, but
Yeah.
it feels very much like you're alone, and nobody can see it and nobody understands it, or kind of comparing one trauma versus the other, or like, oh, mine's not that bad, but it's still like bad in your world, in your perspective.
Hmm.
And so giving back in that way was meaningful for me to do it.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I love that you pointed out that you were like, and you've made it a practice to keep going, keep trying things and keep working on that brain health. And when compared to before, it was such a hard thing to even go outside to do any exercise at all. Like that's a huge difference and really inspiring. I think that's really cool. And hopefully people hearing this will see that like the benefit that comes with
Yeah.
that.
If I
And
could say one other thing too, just
please.
another memorable experience. Um, I remember when I was working at, the concussion treatment center, and like I was observing this person doing kind of the occupational therapy type tasks that you described. Standing on the Bosu ball, doing the Dynavision, like just kind of moving around, doing all this stuff. So this person knew a lot of different languages, but part of their symptom of TBI was like they forgot those languages. They just knew English. And I remember that they got pushed so hard that they swore at the person, but it was in a different language. And they're like, oh my gosh. And then they just started speaking in that language. And they're like, it's back. It's back. And I was just like, whoa, what? That is just insane. And then they started crying. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And like to me, like that's just like, if people could see that, if people could know what that was like, and also to know that like the science and the therapies behind concussion treatment, they work. They really work. And it's so cool. And it worked for me. It worked for people. And like in this facility, we had higher end like professionals coming through too. Like it sounds like how is this going to help? How is like trying to memorize the order of these cards or whatever going to help me? It's like trust the process.
Yes.
Just do it. And I'll tell you, as a psychotherapist, it's very similar to like okay, like, did you get enough sleep? Did you like, did you take some deep breaths? Like, did you sit down and do that very simple exercise where you do this or like, and the answer is usually kind of no. It's like the simple things that
Yes.
we think we know better, but
That
yeah,
is so true. That is so
yeah,
well put. It
yeah,
does come back to basics so many times. And yeah, it's like, how can it be so simple? And it is so simple sometimes. Not necessarily easy, but
no,
simple,
yeah,
a lot. So, and then, yeah, that's a really good point and so cool. And again, I hope this is hopeful for people who hear that recovery is possible. Like, and it was working there that made me believe this so strongly and want to help people know that it is possible because it
yes.
is very hope giving. And you, I would love to hear some of the I some of the things that you would recommend to people? Like, how did you, if it was 2 or 3 years, like how was it that you kept going? How did you, and you said you didn't always have hope. Like, how did you keep going? What made it so that you could keep looking and keep trying? Because actually, sorry, really quick, I'll just throw this out there. I remember
Yeah.
when I worked there at CFX that talking to a caregiver who said my wife and I decided to give up on hope for a little while. And it just like broke my heart, but they had tried so many things and they were like, you know what? We're not going to try anything for a while. Like we just need to take a break from trying.
Yeah.
And that it broke my heart. I'm so grateful that they were there getting help at that point, but I don't know how they got through that or how, yeah, if you would mind speaking to that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Basically kind of how I was able to continue forward, and such. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so I appreciate the example you shared because I think that the answer is really complex. Um, Part of my answer of how I got through it was that I did have to like face the hard things, and the deeper questions, and like I was saying, sharing about suicidal ideation, I don't think that suicide is the answer. Like it's a answer, but the way that I kind of talk about it as a psychoprofessional, and therapist is just that it's a coping skill, to want to deal with pain, and finding other coping skills and other resources, um, are also options, not to kind of belittle someone's pain, or their experience. It is incredibly difficult. But yeah, maybe for like that couple, or maybe for another person, like it's okay to give up hope a little bit, or for a little time, because you need to rest and take care of yourself and reprioritize a little bit. Knowing that, and for me, it was like knowing that, hmm, do I want to end my life? Um, I made the decision like, no, I want to kind of keep trying, but maybe stop pushing so hard. Maybe practice some acceptance that, okay, my life will be a little bit different. Not at all what I planned on it being, but I need to kind of find a way forward. And also like I kept hearing messaging of like, well, you'll be able to help someone else later in life or something like that. And that like it's funny, like that's true. But I didn't find it like that inspiring at the time because I didn't want it to be a part of my life. I didn't want it to be a part
Mhm.
of my future. Like I just
Mhm.
didn't want anything to do with it. And so that like actually like wasn't too super inspiring for me, but rather it was just like giving myself the permission to not be okay. Um, Helped it for me to find a new okay. Um, how else? I just wanted to feel like, I guess, in control. I just wanted to feel like I had some direction or purpose. Um, and I guess what kept me going was my very strong sense of curiosity that I have in the world. Also, something that, my dad taught me was just that like life is about experiences, and having different experiences was motivating for me. The curiosity to have different experiences, which like I also was like, I guess maybe like being kind of like an upper middle child, I also kind of wanted to be heard a little bit. So like I went on to like help with the formation and the forming of, having a NAMI chapter at my university, and created a kind of benefits concert, and like tried to just reduce the stigma in different ways, and um, just advocate as much as I could, in different ways. So I tried to find purpose, and yes, helping people out, but it was like on my own timeline. And something to say to caregivers who are out there, um, like it's okay for the person who's injured to be angry. It's okay for them to have hard times. Like you don't have to fix that. Like just allow them to feel that. definitely have them with like help with a therapist through it all for the caregiver and the other person is my personal opinion. Um, but like sometimes people need to be able to just process their feelings a little bit. And I think people get kind of scared of like, well, is this person a danger to themselves or whatever? Or like, should I do this? Should I do that? There's no saying what the answer is exactly, but people do need to process through things and people remember how they feel. And so just try to create like a loving environment that the person's allowed to be themselves. I would say particularly for like any kind of male or male presenting people, crying or feeling weak or showing weakness can be incredibly difficult. For me, I was more tense, and that's why like I couldn't be outside or with people or with groups as much and stuff because just like even more I had to pretend that I was some tough guy or whatever, like just because, and so if you can create that safe space where like it's okay and you're not like treating them like they're broken or not treating them like they're not able to handle things, like that's really good. And I along that line too, treating a person that like they are like let them choose what they don't want to do. Like
Mm.
don't limit them because you love them or because you don't want them to be hurt or whatever. Like let them set those boundaries for themselves. Um, even if it's even if it's scary. I mean, they're going through scary things and you know, anyways, that's kind of what my 2 cents would be on that.
Mm, thank you. Um, you mentioned NAMI. Can you tell us what that is?
Oh yeah. The National Association on Mental Illness, I believe, is the thing.
Okay,
Yeah. So
thank
it's
you.
it's cool. They got chapters everywhere and walks and funding and it's cool stuff like that. I also looked there for support groups. There didn't as I said, like I couldn't find one that worked for me, so I helped form one.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, just make your own solution sometimes. So
Right, right. Well, and I really appreciate you just being so vulnerable and sharing all of that, especially, you what people would say to try to maybe try to help like here someday you'll be able to use this for good. It's just so funny how like in the moment, yes, that might be true, but in the moment when you're in it, you don't want to hear that. Like, but it is like at this point, looking at your life, like I just see, like it seems, and I've actually written this on my like on the side of my notes here a few times, like it says it seems to have very significantly directed your path. Like the things that you're doing, like you mentioned that the therapist was the first person who made a really big difference for you in helping you. And now this is exactly what you're doing. Like I just see so much goodness for the world coming through you because of this experience. It's just, it's very inspiring, but I can totally appreciate and understand the fact that at the time you didn't even want to hear that because you didn't want it to be part of your life. Could you speak to that and how, like, what you see as how it's directed you and how you feel about it at this point?
yeah, yeah, that's like a big thing. You're right. It's probably one of the most pivotal like plot points in my life, I guess you could say, that I never, ever, ever wanted to have to happen to me. Even to this day, like I'm just like I would have preferred not to. There's a part of me that is absolutely very grateful. And for me, like my first therapist, that I had, like I remember. I got to a point where he said like you'd be a good therapist because and I remember him being surprised because like I would do the homework not like and I would do extra credit like it was my full-time job and actually so like when I was in college concussed I was also working part-time taking a full schedule and like yeah, it was crazy and like it was very hard, but I pushed myself to the absolute limits. And like I was full into therapy because I wanted so desperately to just feel okay. I mean, literally, like my life was spinning. I felt dizzy all the time. I was on a boat. I was on a boat for years.
Mm.
And like I had to master it. I remember hours of me sitting down at a table doing these exercises for cognitive behavioral therapy, writing out my thoughts, closing my eyes, feeling what feeling it was, reading or trying to read a meditation book, practicing that religiously, like ingraining it and mastering these things that I knew it so well that I could do it when I was having a panic attack or whatever. And gosh, that's so freaking hard. But I got good at it and I knew it and understood it better than most people around me. Um, and that eventually, I tried different things kind of in my life and stuff, but that eventually was just like, Porter, you're good at that. You understand it. And why not make the best of it? Why not continue to learn more about it? And so it did. It did influence my career and where I am now. I'm grateful for it. I see people who are kind of standing in similar experiences, if not worse experiences than I did back then. And I feel for them. I can be there for them. I've learned that my experience and everyone's experience is unique to them, no matter what.
Yeah.
Um, but there's also some similarities, and just knowing that you don't know, and knowing kind of how to approach it, um, it's really cool to see. And yeah, I guess like so that was very pivotal for me in my life, having my TBI, going to therapy, and yeah, like I said, what I prefer to have had, not that to happen, and that I could do some other career that, you know, maybe yeah, was easier emotionally, or whatever. And being a therapist is difficult.
Mhm.
It's every day you gotta hear stuff and deal with stuff and be able to provide. So no matter how you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's been a continued mastery, I guess. Can I
Thank
answer
you.
that question?
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, and I appreciate it. Do you feel like I would love to hear you talk a little bit about EMDR if you don't mind? Is that something that you see to be helpful for your clients, or do you think it would be helpful for people with concussions? Tell me more.
Yeah, good question.
Maybe first tell us what it is, because not everybody might know.
Okay, good, good, good. Yeah, so EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. It's let's see, I think it started or was like formed around like 30 years ago or so. Basically, it kind of taps into the state of mind that is present when you're in REM sleep. So when you're dreaming, when you're processing memories, it's not hypnosis. It's like basically you are awake and present, and the therapist is able to through bilateral stimulation or dual attention stimulation, evoke that state in your brain. And what they do is they very carefully, and if a person is interested in EMDR, definitely someone who's gone through the proper amount of training, significant training, particularly if you have like CPTSD or things like that. If you have a concussion, I would say someone who is like very well at it, not like, oh, I'm new at it, or I'm just kind of practicing but not fully understanding. Really make sure. I know EMDRIA is a good organization to start. Good EMDR therapists don't have to have credentialing through EMDRIA. It's EMDRIA, International Association. But there's a place to start there. And essentially the therapist will very carefully help you kind of grab some memories from your past, present, or future, bring them up into the working memory area of the brain, and then tap back and forth between a triggering state and a relaxed state, so that your brain just has this moment and the ability to kind of try to find the right pieces to the puzzle, put things back in. And what people experience, and this is cool if you look at the studies, I mean, they've literally done studies where it shows that EMDR is more effective than medications for PTSD, which is like so cool. But the memory of the thing just doesn't spark the adrenal response as much. I don't know how else to put it other than you're able to find some peace and some reconciliation, and processing with those memories, and so they don't affect you as much. A lot of people's lives are trying to avoid a traumatic memory trigger or have it being brought up. Um, they defend or protect themselves against something that happened to them many years ago, but feels very present, or they don't want it to happen again. EMDR helps with that, and it's pretty awesome, and I would say pretty cutting edge. So I'm trained in that, and I haven't done it with someone who is on, uh, I haven't done it with someone who has a TBI. In my mind, I would think first just getting the essential information of like, is this something that they can tolerate? That's always the first kind of question with EMDR. It can be triggering. It's kind of supposed to be a little bit. You don't have to talk necessarily about it or the things, but just making sure that that's something that their brain can handle. If you find someone who's really experienced with it, you don't have to use the eyes. You can use other things, um, and so, long story short, yes, you can do EMDR for someone who has a concussion or a TBI. I would just make sure that someone who really knows what they're doing and can go slowly with you through it, especially if you're having more severe symptoms and stuff. Um, and yeah, give it a try. I think it's really helpful. Also, if it's like you're working up towards it, kind of scared about it or whatever, like going slow is okay too. But like if you got a good therapist, they're they're gonna make sure that you have like recovery afterwards, and you're able to bring things back into a peaceful place, and yeah, so that's it's kind of the gist of it. Did I answer all those questions? Okay.
Yeah, no, you did. That was great. Thank you. And
Uh,
I just feel like it's important, like you were saying, T part of the TBI doesn't always get addressed. There's a lot of good help physiologically.
yeah.
And I think, again, more and more we're seeing improvements and progress, which is so good. But that the mental emotional piece is a key part of recovery, and that most people who have a concussion, it's because there was some sort of traumatic event, right? Like there was something trauma that happened, and that's why you have this injury. And then it's important just to acknowledge that that was part of it, and that it's part of the healing process is to work through that as well. So
Yeah, yeah. I think it runs hand in hand, and like it really could even help, I think, the biological healing
yes,
process of things
100%.
for sure. There's a mind-body connection that is documented and scientific, and it is real. But also there's a lot of complexity to it. So um, when things are able to clear up mentally and emotionally, like biologically, things are going along the same lines too, and vice versa, I think. So
Yeah, there's a lot more interconnection than I think we realize or that
yeah, yeah,
people
for
tend to want to
sure.
give credit for. So yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Okay, well, I feel like we could keep going for a really long time, but I'm gonna stop us here. But
Yeah,
if you wouldn't mind coming back, I would love to finish this conversation. I feel like there's a lot more goodness for you to offer, and
sure.
share with people if you're game for that at some point.
Yeah, yeah, different topics, different things. Absolutely. This is great.
Okay, perfect. Why don't you tell us quickly what you're doing to help people and how people could get help from you if they were interested in it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, as Bethany was saying, I am a psychotherapist, EMDR therapist, and workplace therapist. A lot of different names, but just kind of showing you where my main focuses are. I love to be able to help people out in the workplace through different workshops. One of my passions is to provide education, reducing the stigma, but also just like really educating people and the masses of how to be able to navigate caretaking or living with mental illness. You can access different things through my social medias. Talk to Porter is my handle. We can go to my website, Smoothstone Counseling. I'm always kind of updating stuff and providing more things. If you have any suggestions, just let me know and I'll make it one of my next projects.
Mhm.
I love doing that. And then yeah, I right now I'm licensed in Massachusetts for psychotherapy. I can do coaching in other states. And I'm looking for just different ways to be able to help people out and train others in knowing what to do. So, like Bethany said as well, I've done some support groups in or done a support group presentation in Utah. And yeah, so I'm happy to speak further on this and such. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and thanks so much for having me. It's been really great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on and for the help you're giving to people in the world who are dealing with similar things that you've dealt with. It is a beautiful thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you listened in today. I hope you have gained some helpful insights and inspiration regarding dealing with and recovering from concussions. My goal is to create more awareness and education about concussions and the fact that there is so much that can be done to improve life after someone has had one. Help me spread the message by liking, commenting, rating, and subscribing to this podcast, and share it with others who would benefit from hearing it. There are more resources available on my website. And again, if you or someone you love would benefit from concussion coaching, sign up for a free consultation using the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Thank you. See you next time, and take good care of that amazing brain of yours.